Time now to get cracking on the SportsMax zone. As reported by the Jamaica Gleaner on Thursday, Christopher Henry Gayle will not be given a farewell match when the West Indies play Ireland in his native Jamaica on January 16. Cricket West Indies named a 14-man squad for the game, plus 2 reserves that will also serve as the unit for the 5 T20 internationals against England from January 22 to 30 at Kensington Oval in Barbados. Karen Pollard, who missed the recent Pakistan series with injury, returns to lead the T20 side, with Nicholas Pooran reverting to the vice-captaincy role. Darren Bravo and Fabian Allen are only available for the England games. This is the full squad. So the skipper Pollard, Pooran, Fabian Allen, Bravo, Darren, Roston Chase, Sheldon Cottrell, Dominic Drakes, Shea Hope, Akil Hussain, Jason Holder, Brandon King, Kyle Mears, Rovman Powell, Romario Shepherd, Dean Smith, and Hayden Walsh Jr. Pollard will also lead the 50-over unit with Shea Hope as his deputy. This is the 50-over squad. So Pollard, Hope, Shamar Brooks, Roston Chase, Justin Greaves, Jason Holder, Akil Hussain, Alzari Joseph, Kudakesh Moti, Jaden Seals, Nicholas Pooran, Romario Shepherd, Dean Smith, and Devon Thomas. We're joined by the CEO of Cricket West Indies, Johnny Graham. Johnny, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
I see that Arsenal are resurgent. How do you feel about their pickup of form under Arteta?
Well, it's certainly nice to be 4th place and above other teams that are currently in the low levels of 6th. So, yeah, that's my scar from the FA Cup final, which we've won 14 times, as you know, George, more than any other team. So, yeah, it's better to be an Arsenal fan now than this time last year, and for a good few years, I must admit.
Excellent, sir. Good that a feel-good factor is coming back to the Emirates. All right, let's talk some cricket now. Will Chris Gayle get a farewell opportunity from Cricket West Indies, and if so, in what form?
Well, we certainly hope so. We've been talking to Chris for a while now about how we can best honour him and also give the opportunity for his friends and families to come and watch a final game, as well as fans, not just in Jamaica, but hopefully around the region, to come and show their pride and respect to one of our greatest ever players. You know, it was reported last month when I was asked a direct question around would Chris get a game against the Ireland series, and you know, being honest, I said, look, it might be a possibility. We had 3 T20 internationals originally scheduled against Ireland, and we cut that down to 1 based on an increase in matches that we were going to play against England, which we were able to negotiate with the ECB. But clearly, at that stage, we didn't even know whether we would be able to host the games in Jamaica. And at the moment, long-term planning is extremely difficult. So, you know, obviously, any player to play for the West Indies, first they have to be selected. And the selectors have decided after the performances in the World Cup, as we now plan towards the next World Cup, which is less than 12 months away in Australia in October and November next year, that Chris is not going to be part of their plans. So there's no longer the opportunity for Chris to play in the upcoming series against Ireland. But we're talking to Chris about how we can best give him an opportunity to play once more in front of his home crowd in a maroon shirt.
In the past, we've had big players, Johnny, who've retired, and people have felt that they've not been given a due send-off, due appreciation show for them in their careers. With the fact that you're speaking to Gayle about an opportunity for him to say goodbye in a respectable way, does this represent a policy that Cricket West Indies will implement to say, if you have served for more than X number of games across whichever format, then you would be due, upon indication that you're going to retire, to a send-off game, or however that can be organized? Will that be policy going forward to avoid some of the claims and counterclaims about favoritism of players and the better treatment of some individuals versus others?
Well, it's not a policy at the moment, but I certainly what I would say is it's certainly a philosophy that I have and that the current management team at Cricket West Indies have. You know, we want to treat players with respect. We want to have good relationships with players, good dialogue and open conversation. So, you know, when we spoke to Dwayne Bravo about, you know, how he might want to retire, he said very clearly that his ultimate goal this year was to stay fit and try and force his way into that T20 side. And that should he be selected, he wanted his last game in a World Cup, and that's obviously what played out. Clearly not as he would have hoped, or any of us would have hoped, because it wasn't in the final, having lifted the trophy. But that's just an example as to how we wish to speak to players, how we want to try and give them an opportunity to bow out should they wish to. And clearly, sometimes that can be planned, sometimes that isn't planned due to injury or loss of form. But no player's entitled to this, but this is certainly a philosophy which we want to treat all of our players with respect. And if there is the opportunity, we can work with them to find the fitting way, whether that's in an interval of a match and inviting them and their families to come and watch a game and make a presentation during the interval, whether that's a testimonial game or whether a player says, look, I've decided to call it quits and this will be my last series or last event, and they're in the side, then clearly we want to do things as best we possibly can. But in professional sport, it's very difficult to manage and plan, and in COVID times it makes it even harder. But that's certainly the intention and philosophy.
Yeah, the COVID issue, Johnny, a real problem from a planning perspective, which you alluded to earlier on. Let's say that Chris Gayle was selected to play the T20s against Ireland for a farewell situation. How disappointing would that have been then to hear that the Jamaican government isn't allowing fans at Sabina Park to watch these games? Because it certainly would take away from an atmosphere of celebrating a player who had given so much.
Yeah, look, I think, ultimately at the moment we can't host cricket without the enormous support we get from the governments of the region, particularly the ministries of health and local government. So, and we've always said that player safety and the health and well-being of those host country communities when we're playing cricket at home is the number one priority. So in that respect, I think a very sensible decision has been made in close consultation with us, I might say, in the Jamaica Cricket Association, to play those upcoming games behind closed doors. But at the same time, you're right, I think when I'm thinking of a celebration and a final game that a player might have for farewell, it's hopefully in front of full crowds and spectators and a real carnival atmosphere. So, look, I think it's something that we're having to live with. Who knows whether we can do it again and whether it wouldn't be the same situation in terms of restricted crowds or reduced capacities. We all hope that very soon we'll be able to get back to normal times and be having full stadiums and full crowds and fans allowed to come back in and watch and support the team. But every time we thought we may be getting through this, second waves, new variants have come out. So it's become, as you rightly acknowledged, almost impossible to plan and very difficult to manage anything. And we rapidly have to change our plans on what seems like almost a daily basis.
Yeah, the selection of the teams for the upcoming internationals announced today, Johnny. I know some months ago there was an announced review of the selection policy and the naming of a new selection panel. And less than 7 or 8 months after that, or, well, maybe longer, but not long after that, we are hearing about another review. So some dissatisfaction with the performance of the past selection panel, triggering a review and a non-extension of their contract. What can you say from a policy standpoint about the Cricket West Indies approach to selection panels and how they operate?
Yeah, look, the new selection policy, or probably the first written selection policy, came in 2019. And I think we were always going to plan, like we do with all our policies, to review them every couple of years to make sure they're fit for purpose and that they warrant the situation that we've evolved into. So again, Jimmy Adams has put forward a working group that's looking at the selection policy. I don't imagine that they're going to come through with a whole raft of changes, but certainly some tweaks and updates from when it was first put together 2 years ago. So I'd expect that policy to go through the committee system and up to the board in the next few months of the new year, so that we can publish that and update that and inform fans and stakeholders of the changes and the reasons behind those in the early part of next year. In terms of the selection panels, obviously we have 3 in place. A youth panel that selected the Under-19 Cricket World Cup side, the women's panel and the men's panel. And it's that men's panel that was led by Roger Harper and supported by Miles Bascombe that had their 2-year contracts not renewed. And we're going to work very, very quickly and very hard to re-implement that panel as quickly as we can. So I'd hope that in very short order, we would have a men's selection panel in place hopefully by the start of February to start selecting teams from that point onwards.
Johnny, finally, usually in an equal opportunity organization, when your contract is not renewed, it suggests that you haven't met the mark, you haven't done the job that's required. You may have done a good job, but you may have not done the job that was required. What aspect of the job did Harper and Bascom not get right to cause CWI to look elsewhere when it comes to the selection panel going forward?
Well, look, I think ultimately the World Cup performance was the one that was the most recent disappointment. I think if you look at the actual statistics over the 2 years, we'd improved performances in all three formats. We'd won some ODI series that we hadn't won since 2015. We obviously had that fantastic Test victory performance away from home against Bangladesh, winning away in the subcontinent of Asia for the first time in many, many years. But ultimately, what was, as we all acknowledged and all accept, a hugely disappointing performance in the T20 World Cup was probably the ultimate decision or the ultimate reason why the board of directors, or in this case our executive committee, made the determination that their contract shouldn't be renewed.
Hear you on that. Thank you very much. All the best for you, and may Arsenal have continued success, and I genuinely mean that.
Happy New Year, and I can't even say the same to Man United.
All the best, Johnny. Thank you very much.
I wish you both a very happy New Year and all the best for 2022.
Good. Same to you. Yeah. Good. Is that the first time we're hearing, Whitaker, from that the World Cup performance was the reason for the contracts not being renewed?
Yeah, well, it was just articulated in no uncertain manner just now, and I don't think we'd heard that before.
Right. So I'm very happy that he answered it as straightforward as that, because I think things like these, it needs to be said. Why? Because you can't have a situation where you have two selectors who are not Robbie Roses, mild-mannered, ultimate gentlemen, both Bascom and Harper, and you'd like to know why. And I think we've gotten a solid why there. The T20 World Cup performance was so bad that was the cause for them not to get a contract renewed. We have that clear. We can move on now.
Yeah. There are views quickly that there was a lot of unhappiness with selection decisions even before the T20 World Cup, because, to be honest, the T20 World Cup squad that was shaped in the end was nurtured from several months before, right, when they were sticking with some players who there were some people who felt should have been eased out, yes, and younger players or brighter prospects being pushed in. So yes, the end product of the selection for the World Cup was something that was being nurtured from early in the year. So in the end, Bascom and Harper lose their jobs, and we look forward to 2022 with some hope that West Indies cricket can improve. Back with more after this.
Si tú me das, te invito a que